Listen, it was windy. I mean, a powerful wall of wind has swept across much of the South and Midwest overnight. That included where we live here. And tornadoes and storms tearing down trees and power lines accompanied the winds.
Well, the storms also hit houses and left at least 2 people dead. And as Ephraim Graham reports, it's not over yet.
Well, we apologize. We've got some problem with our audio. And you get all this expensive equipment, and then it doesn't work. You don't feel you don't feel so bad when you see those launches with billions of dollars, and all of a sudden the countdown is delayed 5 seconds. No launch yet. So
right?
The tile went loose. Oh, we had a bat flew in. Whatever it is. Anyhow, we've had a bat flying here. We understand the audio on our video machines. We want to see this. So, guys, please get the text going. Well, Congress has started on its hearings on gun control and a ban on assault weapons. Our Lee Webb has more on this from the CBN Newsroom. Lee.
Patty, assault weapons have been the focus of the latest debate on gun control. The military-style weapons were banned for a time during the 90s. Now there's talk of outlawing them again in the wake of the Newtown, Connecticut massacre. But I discovered there is a huge misconception about assault weapons.
How would you describe the way it shoots?
You pull the trigger and it just keeps shooting multiple rounds until the magazine's empty or till you let go.
Like not just a bang bang gun, but like, you know, like can like spray off rounds and stuff.
You're assuming that it's firing like a machine gun would?
Yeah.
They're not alone. Several people we met believe there's no difference between the weapons you see on TV, in the movies, and video games, and the assault weapon the gunman used in the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School. The head of security here at CBN, Chris Mitchell, took me to the range to clear up the confusion.
Chief, this is what's popularly referred to as an assault weapon, is
yes,
that correct?
Sir.
Now, it looks no different than a military-style weapon.
That's correct.
We would see a soldier or a Marine carrying in Afghanistan. How is it different? Is it different?
The difference is in the fact that this weapon only shoots in a semi-automatic fashion.
Meaning?
Meaning it shoots 1 round for every trigger pull.
Okay.
So as fast as you can pull the trigger, as fast as you're going to shoot.
And the military-style version has the capability of shooting more than 1 round?
That is correct.
On the trigger pull?
Specific versions, you have a 3-round burst or an automatic.
And existing federal law makes it extremely difficult to own that type of fully automatic weapon. Only this version that you see being fired is readily available on the civilian market, and it fires only 1 round each time the trigger is pulled, no different from a semi-automatic pistol or even this .22 caliber target rifle. To be sure, the assault rifle has more power and a longer range than the pistol. You can see the difference between the round for the AR-15, as it's designated, and the round for a 9mm pistol. But keep in mind, the Virginia Tech massacre in 2007 was the deadliest shooting spree in U.S. history by a single gunman, and he didn't use an assault weapon. All he had were 2 semi-automatic pistols.
So do you believe that putting a ban on these so-called assault weapons will prevent another Newtown massacre?
I honestly don't believe that that's going to make any difference. Law-abiding citizens that own these respect the weapons. That's why we buy weapons. But anyone that has a desire to hurt people are going to use whatever they can get their hands on to do so. So banning these is not going to make any significant difference.
Yeah, Pat, yesterday in the hearings on Capitol Hill, the new Republican senator from Texas, Ted Cruz, says if these weapons are banned, all that's going to be banned are scary-looking weapons.
I think you're right, Lee. You know, it's amazing. The whole thing is we've got to do something. That's what's so terrible about politicians. We've got to do something. It's got to do something. And they do something, and the something is usually wrong. So in this case, it's wrong, too. I was listening to one of the radio talk shows, And I was astounded as he went over the list of the violent shootings that have taken place over the last 10 or 15 years. One after the other, the shooter was on some kind of psychotropic drug, whether it was Prozac or Valium or one of those, medically prescribed by doctors in every single case. These people were onto these drugs. It has nothing to do with the availability of weapons. It has to do with what you put into your system, which, you know, changes your mind.
Even this recent scenario that we have been watching on the news since yesterday with this little boy that was taken, this man that has kidnapped this little boy, it has had erratic behavior for years and marching around in his yard with building a bunker, carrying guns, threatening people. A lot of mental illness is involved in what we're talking about. Of course it is,
and that's what you're talking about. It's not the guns, it's the people who have the guns. But I'm interested in, you know, the guy that you saw, he's head of our security. He was a master chief in the United States Navy. He's been trained in weapons. He did training with the SEALs. We've had a number of SEALs from SEAL Team 6 who worked here, and boy, these guys can shoot like you never saw. But, I mean, they're responsible. They wouldn't go shoot somebody, and they wouldn't go on a shooting rampage because they're trained.
I think the biggest thing that we're facing right now is that there's such, this last incident was such a tragedy.
Yeah.
And small children were involved, and you feel the pain of their parents, and everyone feels compelled to, as you said, do something. But without some thought and some research and some reality applied to it, it'll be meaningless.
The truth of the matter, just politically speaking, if this thing goes along for another several weeks with nothing being done, nothing's going to be done because there's too much opposition to the bans on gun ownership that they're talking about. And so once the fever is over, we're going to switch to let's fix the budget. Lee.
Incoming Secretary of State John Kerry is criticizing Iran for its imprisonment of American pastor Saeed Abedini. Kerry issued a written response to a question from Senator Marco Rubio about Saeed's case. He repeated the State Department's official statement and called for Saeed's release. The American Center for Law and Justice applauded Kerry's statement. The ACLJ's Jordan Sekulow said Kerry has the opportunity to lead a worldwide effort needed to free Pastor Saeed. Nations around the globe look to the U.S. when it comes to standing up and defending religious freedom and human rights. Former Republican Senator Chuck Hagel faces tough questioning in his confirmation hearings to become Defense Secretary. Republicans are concerned about some of his past comments on Israel, Iran, and nuclear weapons. Many conservatives believe Hagel has not been tough enough on Iran, and they question his support for Israel. Others are concerned, Pat, that he would cut defense spending too much.
I think that's the problem. You know, the burden of empire is very hard, and being the leader in the free world is very hard. But you say, if it's not America, who is it? Who will stand up for the rights of the oppressed? Who will stand against petty dictators who come on the scene? Who will be there? What is the final court of appeal? And it doesn't exist. The United Nations, the General Assembly, is a joke. It's a joke. It is a sounding board for radical Islam. We don't have anybody that can be the ultimate arbiter. The United States has had that role over the years. We've also had the privilege of printing currency, which is accepted by all the nations as the foundational currency. So we're in the process of destroying our currency, and we are pulling down our Navy to a point below what it was, I believe, in 1916. And we cannot have two oceans as part of our sphere of influence with no more ships. As somebody said, you can have the most modern ships in the world, but they still can't go in two different oceans at the same time. They can't do it. And so Hagel is the wrong choice. And I just hope that the Senate will stand up. The Republicans in the Senate will filibuster him or do whatever it takes to get his nomination withdrawn, because he is going to be dangerous to the United States of America. Lee?
Growing calls in Egypt and other countries for Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi to bring some of his political opposition on board and form a unity government. Morsi cut short a trip to Germany and headed back to Egypt. Protesters there have been taking to the streets, blasting Morsi. They say he's helped the Muslim Brotherhood, but not the country. The protests have led to more than 50 deaths and fears that the country could be torn apart again. Israeli warplanes took out major targets in a strike inside Syria. The Israeli jets went after weapons that were going to be delivered to the Islamic terrorist group Hezbollah. The strike has raised concerns now that the war in Syria could spread to other parts of the Middle East, especially now that Syria and Iran have threatened today to retaliate for that strike. Here's Chris Mitchell from Jerusalem.
Syrian TV claims Israel attacked a military research center near Damascus. Western diplomatic sources said Israeli warplanes hit a convoy headed for Lebanon. The sources said the convoy contained weapons that could change the military balance of power in the region.
I think that Israel has warned the Syrians about this type of military transfer, and we acted upon it.
It is kind of a message sent by Israel to both Syria and the Hezbollah, by which to say, we do have capabilities when it comes to intelligence gathering.
Some analysts estimate Assad now only controls about 30% of Syria. One of the main concerns of the U.S. and Israel is Assad's huge stockpile of chemical weapons.
We have here is kind of an indication that Bashar's grip over the chemical weaponry is getting weaker. Chemical weaponry could be shifted or delivered to either Hezbollah or radical elements in Syria. For Israel, it is a red line.
Hezbollah is an organization, a terrorist organization with a different strategic calculus, and they may be tempted to use this type of weapons.
The Israeli army would not comment on the attacks, but early this week deployed 2 Iron Dome anti-missile batteries in northern Israel. It's a sign they may be preparing for retaliation by Syria or Hezbollah. For now, Israel's northern border with Syria remains quiet but tense. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
And as we mentioned at the top of our program today, there were powerful storms that ripped across the country, and Ephraim Graham has the latest on that.
Heavy flooding, dangerous winds, and monster tornadoes walloped the South and Midwest and did not let up throughout the night.
It just picked me up and sling me 3 times. I'm just trying to get that door to close.
I had to dig my way out.
I thought he killed my son in the bedroom in there, and I thought it was going to kill me too.
A tornado just north of Atlanta destroyed homes, office buildings, and even parts of a factory. Winds were estimated at more than 125 miles an hour, strong enough to pick up 18-wheelers and toss them around like toys.
I couldn't believe it picked my truck up and flipped it over like that. I mean, I can't believe it.
Similar stories in other parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and Kentucky.
Our trailer kind of lifted off foundation and went back down. I thank the good Lord up above for saving us.
It's all out into the fields. Some of the people's belongings is in here. It's also out there too.
In Michigan, massive flooding caused a car to crash 20 feet into a creek.
The road flooded out. We crossed our car into the river. We're on top of a storm drain in the middle of a river right now. The car is completely underwater. Please help.
In other areas, it was the wind, not the flooding, that made driving difficult.
The winds were so fierce that it was throwing my car sideways. I didn't know if I was going to make it through it or not.
That storm system is now making its way up the East Coast, causing more power outages and flooding from the Carolinas to New England. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Yeah, that system, as Pat, you mentioned, came through our area, the Tidewater section of Virginia, around 2:30 in the morning. I woke up. You mentioned that it woke you up as well. I haven't talked to anybody here at work that wasn't awake last night from that storm.
It was frightful, and things were torn around. You look at on the terrace this morning, and furniture's overturned and things, but we didn't have a lot of damage. But Hey, it's sunny, it's beautiful, it's quiet and peaceful. That's what happens after these storms. It's lovely today, so for that, we're very grateful.
Well,
Terry.
when we talk about the wind howling.
Oh, it howled.
It howled
Big time
last
howl.
night, for certain.
A prominent atheist wants the Boy Scouts to lift its ban on atheists in addition to gays. The Boy Scouts of America is considering replacing the current ban on gays with a policy that would let local troops make their own decisions. American Atheist President David Silverman says scouting should also welcome boys who do not believe in God. But a Boy Scout spokesman says the organization is not considering such a change and that duty to God is still one of its basic principles. The Massachusetts Governor, Deval Patrick, has appointed his former chief of staff to serve as interim U.S. Senator. William Moe Cowan, a North Carolina native, says he's honored and humbled to fill the seat left vacant by incoming Secretary of State John Kerry. Cowan is the second African-American to represent Massachusetts in the Senate, a position he will hold until voters elect a new senator in a special election June 25th. You can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.